I'm glad to be with you here. My name is Barry Tillman from University of Florida. I'm the peanut breeder there. And just want to tell you a little bit about the peanut varieties that we developed that might benefit you here in Georgia. So we have 3 varieties that are currently in certified seed production. It's the Tough Runner 511, the Tough Runner 297, and the Flow Run 331. And I'll run through each of those. There's a handout for you there in your booklet that gives a little more detail on those varieties. So first, the 511, it's a large seeded runner, about 550 to 600 seed per pound, medium maturity in our conditions under irrigation, has graded well and yielded well. In terms of disease tolerance, and that really is a lot of what separates our varieties nowadays, has shown moderate resistance to white mold. Leaf spot is more susceptible, similar to 09B, and moderately resistant to TSWV. And I'll show you some data on those later in the presentation. We also have Tough Runner 297, has done really well in our tests, and a lot of the tests that we do are done to minimize diseases. So we're doing it in a way that you would want to do it in your farm, so minimizing fungal diseases, fungicides, as well as planting higher seeding rates to minimize spotted wilt. But this one here has done really well in all those conditions. It's also a large seeded runner with medium maturity, high yield potential, and good resistance to white mold and spotted wilt. Not as strong on leaf spot, but it has responded really well to fungicides. Our latest release is the Flow Run 331. It is a smaller seed size. I'm calling it more of a medium runner size. It's also medium maturity, excellent yield potential in both irrigated and non-irrigated situations, very good grades, and a very good disease package overall. Good white mold resistance and leaf spot resistance, and also spotted wilt resistance. A little bit of the data from our tests. We conduct tests in Florida over 4 locations. This is 3 years of data from those locations. And you can see that the 331 and 297 are right up there at the top in terms of their yield. The blue is the irrigated yield. The non-irrigated is the kind of orange color, and then the average is the green there. And I've ranked them by the green. So you can see that this would be tests where we've conducted them to minimize diseases, and they look really good, very high yield potential among this top group of varieties. I just separated out the non-irrigated because I know there's a lot of non-irrigated acreage out there, and the 331 has looked really good, relatively speaking, in the non-irrigated areas. You see here we had non-irrigated tests, and the blue is in Gainesville, Florida. It's a very deep sand there. The yellow is in Jay, Florida, out in the western part, in Mariana, where I'm from, in the Panhandle, and then the average there, almost 5,300 pounds per acre in non-irrigated tests over that time period in those locations there. Very good yield potential in that situation. Of course, I don't conduct tests in Georgia, but I was able to get this data from the University of Georgia Statewide variety testing. And this is 2 years of data where we had our varieties in there, especially 331. It was released in 2016, so we only have 2 years of data in the Georgia Statewide variety test, and you can get this data online. And I summarized the locations. There's 3 locations there, irrigated, non-irrigated, and all in each location over this 2-year period. And the 331 on average yielded really well, very similar there to 12Y and 06G. And the 297 also in that top group of varieties. So these are broadly adaptive varieties. I think very good yield potential you'll see in performance across the Southeast. Talk a little bit about disease resistance. Each year the pathologists in the Southeast meet together, and this is not including also from Clemson and from Mississippi, as well as Alabama, Florida, and Georgia, meet together to look at the disease ratings and the disease tolerance of the varieties. And they put together this chart. I'm sure you've heard Dr. Bob Kimwright talk about this. And we assign index points to the varieties, and the lower the points, the better tolerance to disease that we have. And I've just highlighted the varieties here. You can see that if it's in a green shade here, that's a better tolerance. If it's in white, it's not quite as good. And you can see there's a lot of green on there, so a lot of good tolerance to diseases among these varieties. And the 331 has good spotted wilt tolerance, good white mold, and sort of average on leaf spot. Not many varieties are very resistant to leaf spot, especially when you have a year like we had last year. We had 80 inches of rain in Mariana, Florida, which is about double our annual average. So in that conditions, leaf spot's going to be quite bad. But these varieties offer a lot of help for you if you have specific diseases that are causing you problems. Also, Dr. Brenneman does a test for us here in Tifton, Georgia. And he tests not only the commercial cultivars, but each year we would provide him our experimental lines, and these would have been experimental lines back in 2016 that we gave him for 331 especially. And he tests them for diseases that are present in the field, as well as he inoculates the field with the pathogen, so we know the disease can be there. And he looks at both spotted wilt, leaf spot, and white mold, all three of those, and then collects the yield. And you can see the top three yielding varieties in 2016 were 331, the Tiffany High OL, and the Georgia 12Y. And again, not like the other tests I was showing, but these particular tests are for disease reaction. So the yields are going to be a little bit lower, and it's going to show more of those varieties that would perform under disease pressure. And you can see where the others stack up there. The 297 pretty good, the 511 not quite as good here. Same in 2017, the same three varieties at the top there. And then in 2018, the 331 was still up there, but then the Georgia 14N and AUMPL were at the top. And again, every year is a little different for disease, so that's one reason you can spread your risk some with different varieties in your fields to make sure that you maximize the potential. And then averaged over those 3 years, 2016 through 2018, with Dr. Brenneman's data, you see the 331, TIP MV High OL, and 12Y were among the very best in yield potential when disease is present. We also do the same thing in Florida. This is our white mold test. We actually apply the fungus to these plots, the ones in yellow. We would have put the white mold fungus out there to see how the plants react. And in blue, we had done everything we could to avoid white mold. As you can see the difference in the yield there. And again, the 12Y, 331, Tiffany High OL do very well in those kind of conditions. And I did not include 2018 data. You might know what happened in our area in 2018. We had a little hurricane come through there, and this turned out to be more of a leaf spot test. We couldn't keep the leaf spot off this, so it was really more of a leaf spot test. So this is just the 2016 and 17 data. I did include the 2018 data in our leaf spot test because that was by far the most problematic disease we had. And again, the 12Y and 331, this is ranked by when we did not spray any fungicides, that red bar there. We were almost 3,000 pounds per acre over that time period, even with spraying enough fungicides. And just 4 sprays made a big difference in yield potential when leaf spot is a problem. So that's the 3 varieties that we have from Florida. I'd be glad to entertain any questions you have.